was with from the chief operating officer, COO. He stated in the opening comments that he was dissatisfied and disappointed. In who? Dissatisfied, disappointed in who? In me. He was dissatisfied with my keynote speech, and I was really shocked and annoyed. I couldn't believe he said it. I read the survey again from the beginning. Maybe I misread it. Dissatisfied and disappointed, it said. What does he know? I muttered. How many times does he speak? I never even met this guy. I don't remember even seeing him there. How many hours did he spend on the presentation? What did he expect? What were they doing? They didn't pay me that much money. I delivered exactly what they had requested and then some. I'd gone over the max. I had exceeded their expectations in all things that I had done. I really was furious about it, and I had my feelings got hurt. And I was trying to think, why in the world would this guy take this bad day out on me? What's going on in his life? What kind of problems he has? A few days passed, and I kept thinking about it. So I called him. He had his phone number on the survey, and I called him. His words continued to echo in my mind over and over, and I've never experienced anything like it above. So during the call, he told me that I came across like I wanted the audience to like me and be impressed with me. He suggested I should have the potential to be the best speaker, and I should be the best speaker I could be. And he thought I could be the best one he's ever heard. And he's heard some incredible speakers if I would take the focus off of me and place it on the audience. Stop trying so hard. Stop trying to be liked by everybody. Just give them the material, deliver it so it's important to them. It's not about me. After the call, I thought a long time about much of what he said, and I decided that it was true. I wanted to be the best speaker so badly, I actually was diminishing my message. I went from anger to gratitude. The lesson had influenced me, and it really has influenced me from any criticism that should be life-changing. It's influenced me all the way up to today. Coping with criticism can be a challenge. It's something that we all encounter in our lives, whether we want it or not. Somebody's going to criticize you. Somebody's going to be negative to you, but you can turn a negative into a positive, and you can use it for your advantage. When you encounter criticism, remember to take a step back and think before you respond. This will give you a chance to see the positivity within every critique, because there's always a shred of truth, even if most of it's not. So let me give you a dig deep. Think back to a time when you received a critique. How'd you handle it? What'd you do? What'd you wish you could do over? What would you do a do-over with? What have you learned from past criticism? Do you survive the criticism? Did you make you stronger? How will you handle a critic from this day forward? What about the next time you get something criticized? Look, and you'll hear it from some unlikely people. Your so-called friends will say, you ought to heard what such and such said about you. Or you'll get it back in a survey, or you'll get it back in some kind of a response from something that you've done. Take it easy, calm down, see if there's any truth in it, see what you can use out of it, and turn it back on them, and use the critic for your advantage. Look, it's a mean world out there right now. A lot of things are happening that we don't understand. Some of it's uncharted waters that we haven't been through before. Take your time, try to improve, and live, grow, and do. And we'll see you next week. Handling criticism. I know you never had that, so you don't have the experience with it, but I've had a little bit of it. They doing next door, building. This is called Escape the Herd. Welcome back to Don Day Speaks podcast. We're glad you're with us. Our podcast is titled Live, Grow, and Do. And that's exactly what we want you to do. And so we've got a great one for you today. It's called Escape the Herd. Escape the Herd. My aunt and uncle owned a large farm in Kentucky when I was growing up. They had cows, chickens, horses, and many other animals. As a kid, I loved to go there in the summer. I learned so many lessons from the farm that it has really shaped my life and who I am today. The farm life was really a great life. Every evening, the cows would make their way from the fields and from the barns, and they'd make their way back up to where they're going to spend the night. They always traveled the same path they had worn down after years of going back and forth. I marveled at their behavior. They call this a herd mentality. Ever hear of that? Herd mentality. The cows were creatures of habit, following the same path at the same time, at the same place every day, then doing all the same things and getting the same results. Sound familiar? If you don't believe that, look at the Interstate I-24 every time you leave this morning. They're all doing the same thing. We do the same kind of thing. We're in a herd mentality. I mean, here's the deal. It may be fine for cows, but the creator of all things designed you to be more, do more, have more, serve more than the herd mentality. It could possibly be more than you thought. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. The difference between where you are and where you are now and where you want to be can be found in your daily routine. Want different results? You need to make a different action. This is called the science of achievement. When you make an action step and you get a result, repeat that step, you'll repeat the result. Aristotle says we are what we repeatedly do. Getting caught up in a herd mentality and taking a path of least resistance is a path to mediocrity at best. It's far too easy. I understand the mentality. It's safe and it's easy. You just have to follow the herd at the slow pace and then end up at their destination. If this ending is okay with you, then stop listening to this podcast and move on. Because I think you deserve more, that you've created for more, that you should have more, you should want more. And if you do, you must interrupt your current pattern. You've got to interrupt the pattern. You're in a herd mentality for a reason. It's because it's the easy way out. And you just go with the flow. Ordinary people are products of the environment and they fit in. Successful people change their environment and they fly higher. I think that's my audience, that you want to do better and be more. George Patton says this: if everyone's thinking alike, then somebody isn't thinking, right? If everybody's thinking the same way, if everybody's going the same path, somebody's not thinking, they're just following. It's okay to be a follower, but you're probably designed to be a leader. And if you don't like being a follower, then you're definitely designed to be a leader. But here's the deal with thinking. It's becoming a lost art. The herd mentality has us following each other, copying each other's actions, adopting thoughts, and instead of thinking for ourselves, the tendency is to people's behavior to beliefs to conform to the group in which they belong. The practice of thinking and making decisions is it's called a group think. Rejecting the group, if you reject the group, learning to think and stand out on your own is the only way to avoid group think. But you got to be different. But let me warn you, it takes a lot of courage to do so. To go against the flow, it takes a lot of courage to do so. Take time to figure out who you are, who you want to be, and where you want your life to go. That's the problem. We don't think about what we really want out of life. We just know what we need to do to get by. We're trying to get through the day instead of getting something from the day. Some of your friends won't go with you. When you get out of the herd, they're not going with you. You'll turn around to see where they are and they won't be there. Some of your family won't go with you. Maybe your spouse will disagree. She wants you to take the path of least resistance. He wants you to be in the safe zone. But you and I know better. It's not something that you really desire. It's that you got to step out to be more. But look, to think more, you got to turn off the noise. When's the last time you spent a few minutes alone just thinking and writing down every thought that you had and putting it on paper so that you can explore those options, explore those thoughts? Where do you do your best thinking? When did you like yourself the best recently? Look back over your past 6, 7, 8 years. What was you doing when you liked yourself the best? Why? Thinking about it and reacting is really the only way to bust out of the herd. You must actively define who you are and what you want to do and where you want to be. Most people don't know really what they want. We live in a country where we could have and do and be almost anything we really want that we put our minds to. The opportunities are there, and most of us don't know what we really want. We must get comfortable with confrontation. You're going to have to confront yourself if you really want to find out who you really want to be. You've got to confront yourself. You got to stand up to you. and the herd mentality. When you start following your own thoughts over the path of everyone else, some of the group will come against you. This is normal. Expect it, embrace it, and own it. Look, in this world that we're under the sun, we're either in a challenge, coming out of a challenge, and going into our next challenge. It's normal. It's normal. Finally, you must trust yourself enough to stop going blindly and agreeing with everybody else, and you may be ahead of the crowd. And if you'll do that, if you'll stay on the path, if you'll just follow your own dreams and do the things that you want to do and become the person you want to become, you have just broken away from the herd. Don't go back. When times get tough, don't go back. Don't go with what you know. Go with where you want to grow. Keep going. You're on your way to the real you. Let me give you a real dig deep. Where have you been following the herd? Where in your life have you been following the herd? When was the last time you invested in yourself by just deep thinking, spending some time thinking about what you really want? Where do you really want to be? Where are you now? Be honest. Write down every thought that comes to your mind that you believe would be impossible. The best time to break away from the herd is now. Look, everybody's in a disarray. The world has changed since 2021 and 2020. The world has changed. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and broke into 2 million pieces. We're putting it back together, but it's never going to be the same again. Now's the time to break away from the herd, to do your own thing, to become all that you can become, to live up to your potential. It's all up to you. But it's going to require some thinking, and it's going to require some action. And it's going to require for you to live, grow, and do. And that's why we do these. So we'll see you next week. That is called Escape the Herd. Hey. Next one is success is hard to handle. Not for you, but for most of us. Welcome back to Don Day Speaks podcast. We're glad you're here. The podcast is titled Live, Grow, and Do, and that's exactly what we're wanting you to do. Live every day out, grow every day, and do things with what you've learned. We got a great one today. We try to do one great one every week. This is called Success is Hard to Handle. Success is hard to handle. Look, I've experienced failures and successes and a lot of experiences. I've concluded that success is more difficult to manage. Does that come to a surprise to you? Does that come to you as a big time surprise that success is so hard to handle? Most people strive for success. The problem with it is that we failed often throughout our entire life. We know how to fail. That's not a problem, but do we know how to succeed? So today we're going to kind of unpack that a little bit for you. I failed often, more often than I care to give credit to. But I learned from failing that's experience for me that succeeding is a little bit more difficult than failing. In order to be a success, you got to be comfortable with failure. Failure is not something that you're going to quit on. Failure is just to get another chance. I put myself in a position to fail often just to gain experience, to learn new things. I realized that failure is part of the process to success. Ever watch a newborn foal as he tries to stand and walk? I grew up on a farm. I got to see that a lot. Or how about have you ever seen a baby taking his or her first steps? They wobble, they stagger, they can't get completely off balance, they can't get in balance, they can't stand up for very long, they're wound up back on their backsides. Their parents watch and encourage every little step that the baby's trying to do, even if it's only one step at a time. They're excited, they're cheering him on, they're making it just right outside of his grasp. They try and they try, they fail and they fail until they finally take several consecutive steps and everybody goes crazy. Success. They made it. There was a lot of trial and error and a lot of failure, but they made it. Well, let me ask you a question. How many times should a parent give the child a chance to try to be successful? How many times are you trying to get them to walk? If you've ever done this with your children, you know how many times it takes. But at what point should they say, stop? You just can't walk. You're never going to make it. You're just going to fail. I'll just carry you around the rest of your life. How many steps should that be? How many opportunities should they get? How many chances before they say just quit is too hard for you? Never going to make it, right? They give them every chance. They encourage them over and over again because success is on its way. They just got to go through a lot of failure. If you aren't failing, you aren't trying. Failure is the best instructor. Failure is a measuring stick of effort and activity that you're actually out there doing something. I can remember learning how to play golf. And I took my family on great vacations. And one vacation we took to Hilton Head, South Carolina. And our hotel was right next to a golf academy at Robert Trent Jones course. And it was attached to a beautiful Robert Trent Jones golf course. And being there allowed us to sign up for a week worth of lessons. So I signed my son and myself up for a week's worth of lessons. And they videotaped my swing while I was hitting balls into a video screen. They used a lot of different, had me to use different clubs. One of the golf professionals then offered me an evaluation. I'll never forget it. We sat in a little room, we watched the videos, and he said, Mr. Day, after a thorough review of your golf skills, we have determined that you have so many problems, we really can't help you much in 1 week. There's not a lot we can do, but we've decided that there are the opportunities for you to maybe work on one or two things for the week that you can maybe become more efficient, more proficient in. What two things would you like the instruction on? Oh, that was easy. Driving the ball. I want to learn how to drive the ball. I want to be comfortable coming off the tee. It all starts with the drive. I want to learn how to drive the ball. So I would like you to give me all instruction you can give me over the next 7 days on driving the golf ball. So we worked on teeing off with the driver, and we by the end of the week, I had built up a lot of confidence. Not because I was really successful at it, because I had failed so many times. I learned what not to do. I learned what I was doing wrong. Look, I'm no Tiger Woods, but to this day I can consistently go to the tee box with a lot of group of people behind me waiting for me to hit, and feel confident that I can at least get off the tee with a decent shot, one that I can be proud of, but nothing I'm going to win the tournament with. Success is less familiar to us because we experience failure so much more. Success changes you while the people around you don't really change. Let me think about that for a minute. Let me unwrap that for you. Success will change you while the other people, your family, your friends, the community around you are the same. It didn't change them, it changed you. So how do you handle that change? Because people will start to act differently to you. When they're around you, if you've changed for the better and you're out of their league now, maybe you've had some great successes. Maybe you wrote a book. Maybe you did something that really set you apart and moved you up and gave you some success. Now you've got some new things to think about because the people around you have not grown as much as you have. You've changed, they haven't. Having success builds momentum. It paves the way for greater success. Your attitude improves, your lifestyle may upgrade. Maybe you can afford a new car, a new wardrobe, a new house. Maybe you're doing so much better. Now you can travel a little more with your family, go on nice trips. Maybe you buy a vacation house or one at the lake, or maybe a beach house at the beach. All good things if you have the discipline to remain humble and maintain balance of life. They're all good things, but it does add a lot of pressure. You must guard your heart against pride because pride comes before the fall. The harder you work, the more successful you'll become. But success comes at a price. I said success comes at a price. Your responsibilities increase. People become dependent on you for their livelihoods. I know when I hired staff and they bought a new car, I felt the pressure. They're depending on me to give them that paycheck every week that they can pay for that car that he just bought that they really didn't need. Now put a lot more pressure on me. Success is hard to handle. They're depending on you for livelihood, for their families. You have a lot of more responsibility. It puts more pressure and more stress on you. You work harder to keep up. You become more detached from your family and your friends. When I first retired from the Air Force, I began my real estate career. It's been almost 30 years. I had a conversation with a veteran real estate agent. He asked me a really powerful question. What is your objective for your real estate practice? So I thought about it a minute and I told him, I want to make $250,000 a year. Now that may not sound like a lot to you, but to a guy that never made over $55,000 in a year, to a guy 30 years ago, 250 grand was quite a bit of money. I would have been happy with it. That was a goal that I had. And he looked at me and he told me something I've never forgotten. He said, you want to make $250,000 a year. I have to make $250,000 a year just to pay my bills and my overhead. Don't ever get in a position I'm in. Never spend more than you earn. Well, I already knew that. Everybody knows that. I've never done that. So that was a crazy conversation. I quickly dispensed of that and got rid of that. But within 5 years, my lifestyle changed dramatically. I mean, I found myself giving my family all the things that I wasn't able to give them on an Air Force salary. I was buying new cars, buying a better house, wearing a little better label on my clothes, and for them, I'd upgraded our lifestyle as we got more and more money and we made more and more money. I upgraded our lifestyle. And the more I upgraded, the more detached I became because at the brink, I had 7 companies and I was working nonstop. I didn't have time to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I had a lot of toys, couldn't enjoy any of them. My stress was off the charts. I had high blood pressure. I became very demanding. I'm a pretty easygoing guy, but I became very demanding because I wanted the pressure off of me and put it on somebody else. I wanted to have more, do more, be more, and it was exactly what I didn't need was more of everything. I believe unbridled success has destroyed more marriages, has destroyed more families, has ruined more people than failure ever did. Success. Success has ruined more than failure. Success is hard to handle. So let me give you a dig deep. Where in your life are you positioned for failure in order to improve an opportunity for future success? What are you going to do when you are successful? When you are making more money? When you are working harder? When you do have pressure? When you are spending more than you're making? When you are doing all the things that you always wanted to do because now you have some money that you can do them with? We don't know what the economy is going to do next year. Are you making plans now for next year? Are you spending money now like you've got it and it's always going to be there and it's always going to be like this? Or are you making plans for what happens next? What conversations are you having consistently with your family as you gain success? How are you going to keep yourself humble? What's the plan to keep your pride down and your ego from being puffed up? What's the game plan? Or do you have one? Are you setting up a tent before the storm or are you just out there just messing around? The key to being successful is communication with your family and your friends, staying in control of your own self, having appropriate time in every equity of your life, having time for your family, for your faith, for your friends, for your health, for your finances, and having time for yourself. It's important. There's only 1,440 minutes a day, and you can't use them all up in your business and in becoming more successful. So I guess what I'm saying is we want you to live, grow, and do. We want you to be all that you can possibly be, but we want you to do it appropriately. Success is hard to handle. And we'll see you next week. That was success is hard to handle. Welcome back to Don Day Speaks podcast. Our podcast is titled Live, Grow, and Do. And that's exactly what we're here for you to live every day to the max, to grow every day in your life, and to do things with what you've learned. Today, we're going to talk about the root of success. The root of success. But before I do that, let me ask you a couple questions. To my audience, how many of you actually think yourself as being honest? You would really you just define yourself as an honest person. Number 2, how many of you have gotten more done the day before vacation than any other day in your life and any other day than a week? If I was with you, you could tell me yes, and I could say why. Why was it able to do more the day before vacation than any other day? I mean, we're getting ready to go on some vacations for the holidays. There would be more things done the day before vacation than any other day of the week. And the answer to why is that possible is because you plan, you focus, and you execute. You're disciplined. Write that word down. If you haven't got something to write with, this would be a great time to grab something. Get pen and paper and write down the word disciplined because that's the root of success. I'm going to go ahead and give you the punchline in the beginning. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll say that you're either disciplined or you're not. If you're not, this is going to be a great series for you. It's going to be quick and fast and furious, but we're going to give you a lot of ideas on how to become more disciplined. So that's the root of your success. 30 years ago, when I began my real estate career, everybody I took out back then, you took people and showed them houses. Now they don't do that much. We don't ride people around much. We meet them at the house, or they do them on videos. They're buying them sight unseen. It's just crazy. But back then, I had a big Cadillac, one of those long Cadillacs, one that the front of my car got to the subdivision about 3 or 4 minutes before the rest of my car. And I would drive people around, I would show them, and inside my car, I would have more parents tell me that their little boy or their little girl was a genius. They were gifted. 30 years ago, there were a lot of gifted kids. Well, I got a question for you. With all that's happening in the world today, we could use some of those gifted people. Where are these 30-year-old kids? Where are they now? If they're honest with themselves, they're either disciplined or they're not disciplined. They've either became geniuses or they're not, or they were never gifted at all. Let me read a story to you about the root of success. There once was a tree that produced an abundant supply of delicious fruit every day. Everyone marveled at its ability to produce a record harvest each year. The owner who sold the fruit at the local market had become really one of the wealthiest men in town, and he was the envy of all who knew him. However, as the years passed, the owner spent so much of his time counting and selling his fruit that he forgot to nourish the root. He became so prideful and so focused on results that he neglected to see the signs that the tree was dying. Then one day, the owner went to pick the fruit and he discovered to his shock that the tree was barren. There was no fruit. It had produced year after year after year, but all at once, there's no fruit. How could this happen? He asked. But when he was inspected the root, he found his answer. The root had dried up. He was so focused on the fruit that he neglected the root. He wished there was something he could do, but forever now it was too late. How about you? Do you focus on the numbers? Do you focus on the outcomes? Do you focus on the fruit? Are you focused on the money or the lack thereof? What do you focus on? Remember a company called Zenith? They made television sets, bunches of them. Remember Pontiac? They made the Trans Am. How about Oldsmobile? They made big cars, big giant cars with big trunks. And their focus was always on success, not on future development. Their root dried up. When's the last time you bought a Pontiac? When's the last time you bought a Trans Am? When's the last time you bought a Zenith? That should tell us the story. The root of the focus should be on purpose, on people, on innovation, on culture, on success. But your success, your root is on personal development, and that requires discipline. Always remember the amount of fruit we produce is just an outcome and measurement of how well we're nurturing our root. The root is your personal development. I always give my groups when I speak, I give them 2 things they can take away with immediately that they can start to improve their life conditions. Number 1 is stop doing stupid stuff. I tell them all, stop doing stupid stuff. If you want to know what's stupid, when somebody says, hey, watch this, what's getting ready to happen is probably going to be pretty stupid. Number 2 is do what you already know to do. We already know what to do. We just aren't disciplined enough to do it. Have you ever asked yourself, how can I get myself to do what I already know I should do? Why don't I do these things? Why do I procrastinate? Why don't I do what I know I should do? And it comes down to really one word, desire. Desire gets everything started. Zig Ziglar said, there are no lazy people. They're just uninspired. Well, I agree, but we define them as lazy, but they're uninspired. A hallmark of those who achieve greatness is the discovery that they can control the level of motivation they feel by better directing their own minds. It's called mind over matter. Those of you that know me know I'm an ultra distance marathoner. I've run 50-mile races. I like endurance races. I like Ironman. I like all those things that would have endurance to them because it's in the military. They taught us how to have mind over matter. Now, if you get your pen out, I'm going to give you 5 areas that you need to really grow. 5 areas of personal root growth. Number one is mental growth. Mental growth means that you're focusing on development of your mind. It's really about the way you think, the way you learn, the way you act. And you do that by training, by reading, by going to seminars, listening to podcasts, joining groups, getting a mentor. Mental growth is number one. It's very important. Number two, social growth. Social growth is improving your communication skills, becoming more outgoing, becoming more confident. Here's my pet peeve. When parents identify their children as shy, you see it. You step up and you want to talk to the little girl, little boy, and the little boy or little girl will wind themselves around their mom or their dad's leg, and the parent will go to their defense and say, "Well, he's shy, she's shy." Well, if you tell them that enough, guess what they're going to be? Shy. My grandkids are not allowed to do that. They have to step up. They have to look the person in the face. They have to tell them their name and tell them they're glad to meet them and answer their questions and be kind and say, Mr. So and so, Miss So and so. And they're not shy. We won't let them do it. We tell them they're outgoing, that they're very confident. If you tell your wife that she's a rotten cook enough, what do you think is going to become? No, you'll become thin because she won't cook. Number three, spiritual growth. I don't have to spend much time on this. It's your personal relationship with God. Whether you got it or you don't, whether you're doing it or you're not, that's what it is. And it requires spiritual growth. Number four is personal growth, personal development. Who you hanging with? Your income and growth will always be the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. You'll never exceed your level of current personal development if you're not doing anything. If you're hanging around a bunch of people that are doing less, you'll do less. So I should get rid of my friends. You should get new ones. Keep those if you want them, but get new ones and hang around them more often. Physical growth, real simple. Keep moving and keep exercising. The older you get, the easier it becomes because you know you have to do it. And then knowing yourself, what drives you to the highest achievement? What's your highest purpose? What's your ultimate mission in life? Where do you really want to go? Where are you in your life? Where do you want to be? You become and achieve what you repeatedly think. Aristotle says we are what we repeatedly do. John Maxwell, one of my favorite guys, one of my favorite authors, he said this in one of his books: people who get ahead think differently than those that don't. They have reasons for doing what they do, and they are continually thinking about how they can do it and improve on it. While they're doing it, they keep on improving, getting better and getting better. In other words, they have the ability to think, and they're sending clear messages to their mind, so they'll find what they're looking for. And here's what I've discovered over the last 62 years. The mind is not a playground, it's a battleground. It's a place where the biggest conflict is. Look, if you allow negative thoughts to dwell in your mind, it won't be long till it robs you of your peace, robs you of your joy, robs you of your life. You've thought yourself into a depression. You thought yourself into defeat, a great loss. T.D. Jakes says the warfare is in your mind. It's not in your checkbook. It's not in your savings account. It's not in your job. And are you fit for the fight? Because there's a fight going on in your mind every day. And are you fit for the fight? Are you prepared for it? Here's what I know. If you don't get what you want, it's a sign that you either didn't really seriously want it or that you try to bargain over the price. There's a price to pay when you have to do this. I have people say to me all the time, "Oh, I wish I could be a speaker. I would love to have a stage. I would love to talk." No, no, you wouldn't. No. You wouldn't. You don't want to do it. If you wanted to do it, you would do it, but you don't want to pay the price. 90% of what I do is backstage. 10% on the stage. So 90% of it's I'm doing the things that I really don't want to do so I can do the 10% things that I want to do. I'm willing to pay the price, but you're not. Well, I wish I could run. I wish I could run long distances. But no, you don't. Just stop telling me that lie. Start telling the truth. You would do it if you want, but you don't want to pay the price. There's a price to training. There's a price to exercising. There's a price to preparing. There's a cost to convenience. And people don't want to pay the price. So just be honest with yourself. Action will conquer fear. Well, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. Take action and you'll conquer the fear. Look, you're either living under fear or you've conquered it. Conrad Hilton of Hilton Hotel said success seems to be connected to action. Successful people keep moving. They make mistakes, but they don't quit. See, when you have some little thing that's good, it'll ripen into some big thing that's good. When you have some little thing that's bad, it'll keep ripening if you stay with it into some big thing that's bad. You got to catch it when it's young, when it's little. That's the best time to conquer it. And if you've making the good decisions, but you don't put any action with them, that's worse than not making any decision at all. Discipline's a hard thing. To be successful, you got to be willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have. See, there's people that are just getting through today. They're not getting anything from it. They're just getting through it. There's people that aren't making any kind of arrangements for tomorrow. That's not you. That's not me. Being disciplined will help you improve every area of your life. Being disciplined will help you achieve any goals that you set. Being disciplined will help you in controlling your actions. It's called self-control. Galatians 5:22 and 23 says this, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Self-control. Look, if we let our desires lead our decisions, our lives and our bodies can quickly spin out of control. Amen? Self-control is a discipline that God grows within us and continually chooses for us to die to our flesh and live for him. He's given us the ability and the habit forming to do the things we want to do if we have self-control. But we have to have that, and it has to be done through discipline. Vince Lombardi on discipline says mental toughness is many things and rather difficult to explain. Its qualities are sacrifice and self-denial. Almost importantly, it's combined with a perfectly disciplined, will always refuse to give in. He said two words in there that I want you to write down: sacrifice and self-denial. Look, in order to achieve things, you're going to have to sacrifice something. You can't watch every ball game. There's not enough time, not enough energy. You have to do things in sequence. You'll have to sacrifice. You'll have to deny yourself. If you're trying to lose weight, you can't eat everything you see. You'll have to deny and have to make sacrifices. Brian Tracy says this: your ability to develop the habit of self-control and self-discipline will contribute more to your success than any other quality or character in your life. He's saying that discipline and self-control will contribute to your success in ways that nothing else can match up. Discipline's a personal choice. You can't allow outsiders to make it for you. Who you hanging with? Are they encouraging you or are they discouraging you? They lifting you up or bringing you down? Self-discipline is really doing the things that you really know you need to do when you don't feel like doing them. It's not when you know you have to do them and you do them. It's when you don't feel like it. You may be having a great week and eating right and doing all the right things, and then one morning you wake up and you don't feel like being good. But discipline's the key. It's a secret pill. It's the magic step. But it requires sacrifice. Here's the deal about discipline. Anybody can acquire it. If they really want it, they can acquire it by just taking baby steps, just taking one step at a time. I've told you before, when I coached as a Nike coach for marathons, I never talked about 26.2. I talked about running from here to that stop sign. Little bitty baby steps. Can you run to the stop sign? Yes, of course. Let's go. Can you run to the next mailbox? Yes, of course. Let's go. Step at a time. We never talked about 26 miles. It's $2, too big. Being disciplined is better than skills and talents. Look, discipline's a root, and it will make you successful. It's what brings you to the surface. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Being disciplined will help improve every equity of your life. Self improvement, anytime you want to do that, anytime you seek that, you will improve mentally, physically, and emotionally. If you're not exactly where you want to be mentally, physically, and emotionally, start having some self control and some discipline. Do the things that you know you should already do. Look, you don't need to learn anything new. There's nothing new under the sun anyway. It may be new to you, but you don't need something new. You just need to know that you need to take the next step. You need to have discipline to do the things when you don't feel like doing it because you want a better life in the future. Muhammad Ali says, I hated every second of training. I hated it. But I knew if I would do it, I could live the rest of my life as a champion. Muhammad Ali. People tell me about they have goals. Let me give you the best tip I can give you about goals. Don't just think it, ink it. If you'll write your goals down, if you'll take that step, that next baby step, if you're disciplined enough to write them down and keep them in front of you, you'll have a 42% better chance of making your goal than you did if you didn't write it down or didn't keep it in front of you. You got to send clear messages to your mind. To have discipline is sending a clear message to your mind. What is it that you really want? That's the problem. We don't know what we want or how to get it. So now defining what you want, discerning what you want, and what's the first step to going after it? Just the first step. We'll worry about step number 2 tomorrow. But what do I need to do today to start walking toward that goal, to walking it out in my life? And discipline will help you control your actions. It'll help you think. See that we're losing the art of thinking. I know I say it every week, but we're losing it. People are reacting. It's a herd mentality. We've got to learn how to think and act. Faith cometh by hearing, and you got to be able to hear what you're wanting to do and think through it, and then take the baby steps that you need to do it. 1 Corinthians 9:27 says, "No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize." He controls himself. That's Paul. He says he strikes his body. He takes it into submission. You can do that in your mind if you'll send a clear message. We are bombarded daily with distractions. We're the most distracted generation in the history of the world, and that's where it's going to require some self-control and some discipline. You can't have your phone beside you 24/7. If you do, you can't listen to everything that comes on it. You can't search everybody's social media page out and start chasing a bunch of squirrels down a hole. Your day will get away from you, and you only have 1,440 minutes. If we can't control with what we do with our time, our 1440, we'll always come short and would never achieve anything for the day. You've got to start using yourself and your time wisely. Look, at my age of 62, I realize now that my time is more important than money. Oh, I need money. I want money. I got to have money, and I take the money, but everything's negotiated with time. How much time is it going to take? To do these podcasts, I try to do 2 or 3 or 4 of them at a time because time is so important. I can get more money. I can't get more time. With a little self-control and a little discipline, I can make as much money as I want to, but I can't make up any more time. Time is more important than money. So realizing the equity of your life of where you need to put the most effort in has a lot to do with how much time you have. The author of Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich, if you don't read that book, you need to read it every year. He knew what it took to be successful. He was a disciplined student. He did everything he could do to make himself, and he went on a quest to interview 500 of the most successful men in the entire world. He searched them out and he asked them a lot of questions, and he came to this conclusion. After interviewing 500 of the most successful men in the world and all the discipline he had to go and find them and to get to them and to be able to talk to them and ask them the questions and dig deep, and he found out this. He came to the conclusion that self-discipline is the master key to all riches. Self-discipline is the master key to all riches. Anything you want to try to achieve, whether it's your body or your mind, physically or any other way, it's going to require self-discipline. It won't just happen out of the normal. So our root success is personal growth, self-discipline, and focusing on self-awareness. Where are you now, and where do you want to be? Well, that's it for this week. It's live, grow, and do, and we will see you next time. That is called the root of success. That gives us 4 of them in less than an hour. Your time's so valuable, I try to take advantage of it and get it when I can. I didn't. Root of success. The root of success. Buddy, interruptions don't bother me. My entire life has been interrupted. I appreciate